Okay, so you want to advise like a whole new generation of ministers? Wow, that's something.
It's quite a calling.
It is. But before you lay down the wisdom, I think we got to like really unpack what this job actually is
Yeah.
because let's be real, most of us, we see the Sunday best, we hear the sermons,
Right.
but there's a whole lot going on behind the scenes that
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, that we don't see, and that's what we're diving into today, right?
Exactly. We're going deep into these career resources, the kind of stuff you find on RoleCatcher.
Yes. Roll catcher. I spent like a weirdly fascinating weekend on that site.
It's a treasure trove.
It is. And the stuff they don't tell you about becoming a minister, it's wild.
It's not all, scripture and sermons.
No, and that's what blew my mind. The first thing, okay, get this. 77% of a minister's job. Social perceptiveness.
Wow.
77%. I mean, come on, that's more than preaching.
That's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Because it's about understanding people, right? It's
Yeah.
about connecting, empathizing,
Yeah.
really tapping into what makes people tick.
Mm.
And, one of these guides had this story, and I swear I was laughing and cringing at the same time.
Oh, tell me.
So this minister, he had to mediate a fight, like a full-on feud, between two families in the congregation.
Oh, no. What
The
happened?
church bake sale.
You're kidding.
Apparently, accusations were flying, secret recipes were being questioned.
Oh, bake sale drama. That's next level.
Right. But this minister, he used that social perceptiveness, calmed everyone down, figured out what was really going on, and somehow brought everyone back together.
Wow. That's a masterclass in conflict resolution right there.
Exactly.
And it makes you realize, like, okay, being a minister, yeah, it's about faith, but it's also about some serious people skills.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, what other hidden talents are we talking about here? Give me the inside scoop.
Well, buckle up, because these resources, they paint a pretty diverse picture, like management of personnel resources.
Okay, hold up. That sounds very corporate.
Right.
Like, are we talking about managing volunteers? Staff?
All of the above.
Yep.
Imagine you've got your team of volunteers, all with big hearts, but maybe even bigger personalities.
Well, I've been there. It's like herding cats sometimes, right?
And then on top of that, you've got to balance the budget,
Yeah.
make sure the church roof isn't leaking.
The logistics.
It's a lot to juggle.
Seriously. So we've got spreadsheets, strategic planning, conflict resolution. What else?
Well, public speaking and persuasion pop up a lot too.
Okay, but we're not talking like used car salesman tactics here.
No. It's more about inspiring people, communicating complex spiritual concepts in a way that resonates.
Okay, so it's less about closing deals and more about what? Opening hearts.
Exactly. It's persuasion, but in service of something much bigger than yourself.
I like that. So speaking of big picture stuff, let's talk career path. Because is there even a job market for souls these days? I mean,
That's the question.
yeah.
Right? And what surprised me was how much it varies. The overall outlook is pretty stable, but it really depends. Some denominations, the ones embracing technology, contemporary styles, they're actually growing.
Interesting. It's like the ministry is having its own little digital revolution.
It really is.
Which I gotta say, I'm kind of curious about. Like, do these resources talk about that? How ministers are dealing with this whole online world?
Oh, yeah. They stress the importance of being tech savvy.
Uh-huh.
You got to be comfortable with online platforms.
Right. Social media.
Exactly. Social media. Some ministers are even launching their own podcasts.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me we're going to be replaced by AI ministers soon?
Not just yet.
Okay, good.
But technology is changing the game. But even with all that, one thing stays constant. Compassion, empathy, that human connection, those are still at the core.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Because honestly, with all this talk about tech and trends, I'm also thinking about, the human toll, because this job, it's got to be emotionally demanding, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, do these resources talk about that?
They do. Burnout is a real concern. You're carrying the weight of your congregation's worries, doubts, fears, and you're dealing with your own stuff too.
Right.
It's a recipe for exhaustion. These resources, they really emphasize self-care, strong support systems, setting boundaries.
It's that whole you can't pour from an empty cup thing, right?
Exactly.
So amidst all this emotional heavy lifting, the tech revolution, is there still room for the traditional aspects of ministry, like the sermons, the pastoral care, the stuff we usually think about?
Oh, absolutely. Those are still the foundation.
Yeah.
But even those are evolving.
Oh, how so?
One resource talked about a minister incorporating meditation techniques from different faiths into their sermons.
Oh, wow.
Another one mentioned using VR, virtual reality, to create immersive experiences for youth groups studying religious history.
That's incredible.
It's about meeting people where they are.
It really is. So it sounds like the modern minister needs to be this fascinating blend of ancient wisdom and like cutting edge innovation.
Exactly. And that's what I love about this research.
Yeah, I was expecting dry scats, theological jargon,
Right.
but it's the human stories that get you.
Absolutely. And we've only just scratched the surface.
It's like we're getting this like exclusive backstage pass to a whole world we thought we knew.
Right.
But whoa, there is so much more going on than like meets the eye.
And one of those things, one of the backstage things that really struck me was this emphasis on the minister's own, like personal growth.
Oh, interesting.
It's not enough to just, preach it.
Yeah.
They have to live it, constantly reflecting, grappling with tough questions right alongside their congregation.
Yeah. It's like they say, physician, heal thyself.
Exactly. And these resources, they really hammered home the importance of ongoing learning, mentorship, self-reflection.
So it's not a get your theology degree and you're good to go kind of deal.
Nope. It's a lifelong journey.
Which, let's be real, that's true for all of us, not just ministers. But they're dealing with those big existential questions day in and day out.
Exactly. And it takes a certain kind of, commitment, a willingness to be vulnerable, to keep learning and growing.
And increasingly, that learning curve includes a digital component, right? I mean, forget ancient texts for a sec. These days, ministers need to be fluent in like Instagram, Zoom meetings.
It's a whole new world. We've gone from the pulpit to live streaming services, online communities.
Podcasts.
Exactly.
Okay, but hold on. While I'm all for, embracing technology, the cynic in me wonders, does all this digital stuff take away from the heart of it all? Like the human connection, the in-person support?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And what I found fascinating was these resources acknowledge that tension.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they emphasize that technology. It's a tool. And like any tool, you can use it for good or bad. It's all about intentionality.
Okay, I like that.
Are you using these platforms to amplify those core values, to reach people who might not walk into a church?
So digital discipleship, but with the same goal, to guide, to support.
Exactly. And that leads to another interesting point. These resources highlight how diverse ministry actually is.
Oh, in what way?
Well, we've talked about ministers leading congregations.
Right.
But there's also a crucial need for chaplains.
Oh, right.
Right.
Providing spiritual care in like specific settings, right?
Exactly. Hospitals, military, of course.
Those are the ones I was thinking of, yeah.
But also universities, prisons, even corporate offices.
Wow, corporate chaplains. Now that's a whole other level of like stress management skills.
Right. It requires incredible sensitivity, cultural awareness.
And probably some serious conflict resolution skills, like we talked about earlier.
Oh, for sure. You're navigating some ethically complex situations.
Seriously, that's like emotional intelligence on steroids. And frankly, those sound like valuable skills for anyone in any job.
100%. And that's what fascinates me about all this. There's this amazing overlap between what makes a good minister and just a good leader, period.
You're right. Critical thinking, negotiation, problem solving. It's like a crash course in navigating life.
And let's not forget, perhaps the most underrated skill of all, active listening.
Amen to that. Being able to truly hear someone even when they're different from you, that's huge.
It's the foundation of connection. And these resources, they suggest that's where ministers, the really good ones, they shine.
They create that space, that safe space where you feel seen, heard, supported.
Exactly. Whatever your journey, they're there to walk alongside you.
And that reminds me of another aspect these resources touched on, the historical role of ministers in social justice movements.
Absolutely. Often overlooked, but so important.
Right. Throughout history, religious leaders have been at the forefront of change, fighting for equality, challenging the status quo.
From the civil rights movement to advocating for the poor, it's a powerful legacy.
And these resources, they're saying that's still relevant today.
Absolutely. They talk about the need for ministers to navigate complex social issues, engage in interfaith dialogue, be advocates.
So it's not just about like individual salvation, it's about collective well-being.
Exactly. It's about understanding that we're all interconnected, working towards a more just world for everyone.
It's about putting faith into action, which, let's be real, that takes guts. It's one thing to preach compassion. It's another to actually stand up for what's right when it's hard.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
But for a lot of ministers, it's not even a choice. It's part of the deal.
It's who they are.
Exactly.
And it strikes me that those qualities, standing up for what's right, leading with compassion, challenging injustice, those are qualities we need in all kinds of leaders, not just the ones with reverend in their title.
Absolutely. Those are universal values. And I think that's what's so inspiring about all this research.
It reminds us that, yeah, the world's a mess, but there's still good in people.
Exactly. And that we all have the potential to make a difference.
Love that.
Which brings us to an interesting question.
Hey.
With all this in mind, what advice would you give to someone wanting to become a minister today?
Ooh, that's a good one. With all the stuff we've uncovered, it's hard to pick just one thing.
I know, right?
Yeah.
What stands out to you?
That's a tough one. It's like we've, I don't know, opened this treasure chest of like insights, and now you're asking me to pick just one to take home.
Right. There's so much.
There is.
But if I had to really boil it down to one essential piece of advice for those aspiring ministers out there,
Okay, I'm listening.
I'd say cultivate adaptability.
Adaptability. That's interesting. Why adaptability?
Well, think about it. The world's changing faster than ever before. Technology, how we think about things, even how we understand faith itself, it's all in flux. To navigate that, ministers, they got to be adaptable.
So it's not enough to just be like a scholar of the scriptures. They also have to be able to, engage with the world as it is right now with all the messiness and everything.
Exactly. These resources, they emphasized that the modern minister, they got to be okay with not knowing all the answers, with embracing new tech, new ways of thinking.
New everything.
Yeah. They got to find new ways to connect with people on that spiritual level, and that looks different now than it did, a generation ago.
It's like being this tech-savvy, emotionally intelligent chameleon, blending the ancient wisdom with the cutting edge.
Perfectly said.
Huh.
Always learning, always open to new ways of doing things, and meeting people where they are, which, let's face it, is often online.
Right, like that minister we were talking about, the one using meditation. And wait, was it virtual reality?
Virtual reality.
Talk about adapting.
Right. It just shows that core of ministry, the connection, the guidance, it can be expressed in so many ways. Find what works, what resonates.
Like same message, different delivery method.
Exactly. And honestly, that idea of adaptability is not just for ministers, is it? It's something we could all use a little more of in this crazy world.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I might not be leading a congregation or anything, but being able to adapt, to be open to new ways of doing things, that's essential life advice these days.
Right. It applies to everything. Your job, your relationships, heck, even just being open to new experiences. A little adaptability goes a long way.
It's about being curious about the unknown, not afraid of it.
And knowing that change, even when it's tough, that's where the growth happens.
Well said. Well said. And speaking of embracing the unknown and all that, I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive.
Until next time, everyone, keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and don't be afraid to dive deep into whatever interests you.
You never know what you might discover. Maybe even a hidden talent for adaptability. Thanks for joining us.